Welcome to the Rhode Island Division of Developmental Disabilities DD Community Quarterly Forum. Tuesday, June 20th, 2023. Hosted by Advocates in Action Rhode Island. On this screen, we've shared the agenda for today's forum. If you'd like more about some of the topics mentioned during the following recording, visit our website at www.advocatesinaction.org/ddcommunityforums.
So welcome everybody. Deb's going to start bringing you all in as panelists so you can see each other.
Because it's a community forum, we would like to see everyone's face. And so we are going to make you all panelists. Don't worry, that does not mean that you have to present. So don't panic, but you're going to all become panelists. And if you could turn your cameras on, that would be lovely. And if you could leave your microphones off, that would be even better. So please stay muted, because if you don't, you're going to pop up all over the place.
We are on Facebook Live. Wave to Facebook land. My name is Michelle White. I'm from Advocates in Action, and we are really excited to be hosting the DD Community Forum again this quarter. So without further ado, because it's 3:06, I want to introduce you to the DD Director, Kevin Savage. Kevin, you can take it from here.
All right, thank you very much. Thanks everybody for joining. Thank you, Michelle. We're very, very happy to be back again this quarter to update all of you on what's going on in DD world. And we just thank you so much for your constant participation in these meetings, and welcome anybody who's new, and we're glad you're here. Today, I have the privilege of introducing to you our new interim director, Dr. Louis Serbo. Dr. Serbo has a distinguished history of serving Rhode Islanders, both as a civil servant, having worked at Eleanor Slater Hospital, the Division of Behavioral Health, at the Department of Corrections, and most recently as the Deputy Director of BHDDH, and in private practice as a psychologist. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Serbo in his new role as Interim Director of BHDDH. Dr. Serbo?
Good afternoon, and thank you for that kind introduction, Kevin. I appreciate the invitation to introduce myself, and pleased to welcome our DD community to today's forum. Before I make some brief remarks, it is truly a privilege to serve all of you. I also want to thank the communities who work with the families, the employers, the committed providers, and support professionals. I especially want to recognize the input of adults with disabilities into the decision-making processes, as their insights is invaluable and assisting all of us to achieve system reform in a manner that actually meets the needs of the population. We honor your partnership and thank you for your assistance in placing great values in the abilities and the potential of all individuals for creating meaningful opportunities for all. I also want to thank the leadership of Governor Daniel McKee, members of the Rhode Island General Assembly, Secretary Richard Charest, Court Monitor Anthony Antosh, and especially the state team at the Division of Developmental Disabilities, led by my friend Kevin Savage. They have all worked tirelessly with ongoing support and resources to truly transform our system in Rhode Island. Our state has become a place of great opportunity for everyone with differing abilities and their families. Kevin and I have been meeting, and the work that has been accomplished is extremely impressive. However, we still need to continue the work and cannot do it without you. We are committed to everyone having the opportunity to live, work, and spend time in the community alongside people who do not have a disability. It means having a job, a good wage, and most importantly, includes the opportunity to make choices and plan services around individualized interests, desires, and needs. We need to ensure that you receive the best possible services, care, and assistance from us. So we need your voice to be heard to do that. Please reach out to me or Kevin when you need to. Together, we will continue to make our system stronger and the best in the country. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Dr. Serbo. Welcome aboard. We're happy to have you as our interim director and look forward to working with you both within the department and in the community.
Yeah.
The first thing I wanted to talk to you about was staffing, and I introduced the new staff members individually, but if I could just ask Ann to give an update in general on what the new teams will be doing, the communication team particularly, that would be great. And then I'll identify the individuals who have joined the team.
Thanks, Kevin. Yes, so we are very excited to have a new communications and training team at the division that will be working on a lot of materials and info sessions and our website and other things to make sure everyone is informed and has all the information they need. Right now, we're working on a guide to services, especially with all of the new services and changes that are coming, some of which we'll talk about today. We'll be having some information sessions this summer about some of the changes that are taking place, so keep a lookout for those. We might be revamping the newsletter a little bit, and definitely we'll be looking at the website, looking at adding some more stories. We want to tell more stories about the DD community. And we want to get more materials in other languages and in ASL and alternate formats. Any ideas people have for what they would like to see, we would love to hear from all of you about what you would like to see us do.
Thanks, Ann. And Ann's in the communication team, we're going to have a bit of a presentation going forward. But let me just give you an update on what the changes are in staff, because that's certainly going to have an impact on who you communicate with and how we're going to be moving forward. So one big change for a number of you is that Natalie Sam, who is a caseworker, retired about 6 weeks ago, and her team has taken over communication with people just to cover her caseload until her position is replaced. Lori Vandal, who's a long-term state employee and a clerical person for our department, also retired. She covered answering the phones. That's also being covered on her behalf. Meredith McDonald, who is a supervisor in casework, has become an administrator for RICLAS, and we're very excited to have her in that role. Again, as a supervisor, her position also has been filled. Carl Desjardins, a supervisor, has moved to the Executive Office of Health and Human Services. Mary Beth Stevens and Stacy Perry have been promoted from social caseworkers to casework supervisors. One of them filled Meredith's position. So we're excited about that. We're excited that there's been movement in the Division of Developmental Disabilities, where very qualified caseworkers and managers have moved into higher positions. And it's great to have a staff of such competent people that we can see movement upward within the department. We want to welcome 2 new caseworkers, Amber Matson and Crystal Morell. They'll be starting on July 16th. Amethyst Neves joined the department in May as an associate administrator for community services, and she'll be working on improving information and communication. Elvis Ruiz filled the employment administrator position. And if you'll remember, about a year ago, Tracy Cunningham left that position. We have searched high and low for the right candidate for this position, and we are very, very excited that we were able to identify Elvis for this position. He has a tremendous amount of experience in reaching out to business communities. He has a lot of experience in civil rights and limited English proficiency experience, has worked with the Department of Administration's Office of Diversity, Equity, and Opportunity, has been a chief program coordinator in Minority Business Enterprise, and just a wealth of experience that he's going to bring to our department. So we are extremely excited that he's joined our team. Cindy Fusco, who was my administrative assistant and had an outstanding job, has moved roles and has become a project manager working to help us complete the task of complying with the consent decree. And she has gotten off to a great start, just coordinating all of the consent decree requirements and efforts to help us achieve full compliance by the end of the consent decree year, which is June 30th of next year. Johanna Mercado, who goes by Jo, is a new coordinator for community planning and development, and she's also focused on communication. So we're excited about that. She actually has a background as an academic librarian, and so just brings a different spin to the work that she's going to be doing. Jackie Camiloni, prior state service for 25 years, a former caseworker, was employed. She's actually joined the role of helping the direct support professionals. She's joined the employment team and will be working in areas for helping DSPs to assist with the residential community service supports team. So we're excited about that. Joined for training, staff development, and continuous quality improvement.
You might have to turn your camera off, Kevin. There he is. Yay!
Yes, Kevin.
Is he back? Oh,
He's back.
So Peter Jolie was the next person on my list, but I lost my list when I went off the
Wow.
camera. And I just need to pull my list back up. So I apologize for that. Yep, Peter Jolie is a principal community development and training specialist, and he'll be working on with the communication team and training team to help get staff up to speed on their training. And last but not least, Stephen Say is the new coordinator for integrated community services. He actually moved to Rhode Island from Colorado to work. He actually worked in DD and then came under working with the quality management team. And he began his career in 1993. He just moved to Rhode Island in 2018. Sorry about that. But he has experience working with older adults, some with disabilities. He's worked with nursing homes. But he's working on Heather's team, and he's going to be providing the direct support group and home residents with developmental disabilities supports. He'll be working on helping us get our quality standards in place. So we just welcome everybody to the team. We're very excited about the work that they're going to be doing and the improvements that will be occurring because of the expanded team. And I think we'll really see a difference very quickly in how our work gets done. I'm excited that, and I really want to thank the court for recognizing the shortages in our workforce and pushing to get new and professional support team in place to help the department move forward in the areas of supporting self-directed population, the communication team itself, and more attention to community supports and employment that we've long needed and particularly has advocated for a communication and training team, recognizing the vital need for that. And it's here. So we are promising to make good use of the team that we're putting in place to make life and improve the quality of life for people with disabilities, and working together with the rest of our stakeholders to improve training and communication across the system. There's been a significant question, and we'll take questions at the end. I'm moving quickly because we have a lot on the agenda, and I want to make sure we have sufficient time, as always, for questions and answers from the community at the end. So I want to leave time for that. Feel free to put your questions in the chat. We'll track those and make sure that we answer them at the end of the presentations.
Kevin, before you start, just if you're here and you have not pushed the little button that says, okay, I want to be a panelist, just click it. It's just so we can get you on screen. You don't have to present anything, but we're trying to upgrade everybody to panelists so we can see everybody because it's a community forum.
We are continuing to support the effort of parents and guardians to be continue to be funded for supporting their adult family members with disabilities. We are moving forward, however, on putting guidelines together so that there'll be accountability standards so that we're assured and your relatives are assured that people who provide those services and access Medicaid funding to do that recognize that they have the ability to assist their relatives just as anybody else would with being able to access the community and access employment supports in accordance with the standards provided by the Division of Developmental Disabilities. So a requirement for being a DSP, whether you're a family member or whether you're a member of the community or provider community, is that a right of a person with disabilities is that they're able to access the community and have support staff who help them to do that, and able to gain employment and have support staff who are able to help them do that, is a right of the person with disabilities, regardless of who their service provider is. So we're going to put service guidelines together and standards together for everybody who provides that service, whether you're a parent, sibling, or non-relative across the system, so that the standards are the same regardless of anybody. And we're encouraged to do that by the Center for Medicaid and Medicare and Medicaid, CMS, so that the services are the same for everybody and the standards are the same for everybody. And I hope that that will be well received across the community. So with that being said, those are the major updates that we have right now. I'm going to turn this over to our communications team led by Anne Leclerc, and she'll give a presentation with her team on communications. So Anne?
Thanks, Kevin. We have some additional updates to what Kevin said, so I'm going to share a screen so people can follow. Okay, so we're going to give an update on conflict-free case management, talk about some upcoming changes to not just the SIS, but how we do assessments to determine level of need overall. We'll talk about some service and budget changes that are coming up after the rate review that we've been doing for the past couple of years. Talk about something new called individual budgets, and then we'll give an update on employment in the technology fund.
Hi, I'm Kelly Peterson. I think Kevin got cut off when he was introducing me, but I am the Chief of Training and Staff Development here. I was a DD supervisor. So if anyone has ideas for new training or staff development, certainly any feedback I welcome in my new role here. I'm helping out with Brenda Duhamel, who's also on, going over updates for the conflict-free case management. I know it's been discussed previously, but we just wanted to restate some things and add some new updates that we had. And then Brenda's going to answer some of the questions that had come into us. So as you all know, the conflict-free is targeted to begin in January of 2024. And for our participants, we are thinking that they would roll over, or you would go into conflict-free on your plan date. So whenever your plan comes up in the next year, that's when you would look at conflict-free. And just to make sure everyone knows, you would be contacted before any of these changes would be made. This is the RFP is being developed and being reviewed by leadership. So the agencies have not been determined as of yet who will be doing the conflict-free case management. And right now they are working on some of what the core components of the training will be for conflict-free. That is just in the early stages of development, and there will be meetings and chances for public to comment on also what they feel is necessary.
So Kelly, just before we move off of this, I want to point out RFP means request for proposal. So that's when the state puts out something saying, these are all the things we're looking for, and asks for companies to give us a proposal for how they would do that work. So right now we're developing what's called our scope of work. So what we say we're looking for, that will go out sometime this summer so we can get those proposals back for the people who are interested in doing this work.
This is what is the role of the case manager. So this is the conflict-free case manager. In the initial stage, they will learn about you, learn about your interest, develop your plan with you and with your supports that you have, check in with you at least every month or more, monitor your plan, make sure you're getting all the services after they work with you to develop your plan. Help you make connections and connect you to those services and supports that you identify when you develop your plan. This is more about what our role is here. So our role at the Division of Developmental Disabilities, what the social caseworkers are here now, what they will be doing. There will be a transition unit or team that will work with individuals when they're transitioning between high school and getting into our services. That will be a whole department that we're focusing on. We have pre-eligibility, which involves counseling of options of different ideas that you may be able to explore DD or other services that you may be able to benefit from before you become eligible. We still have the eligibility team, which helps with determining whether you're eligible or not for our services. We still help you do the waiver application that you need through Medicaid. We still determine your level of need and your funding and authorization that goes with that. We still look at your person-centered plan. We review it for quality. We authorize all those services. We still provide the customer service support, residential coordination if you're in need of assistance with housing or residential options, shared living, group home, assistance in your independent living. And we're going to continue to monitor the quality of all of the services. These are some questions that I feel like have been frequently asked either of me or other caseworkers here. I also got a couple of questions from Advocates in Action and one additional one that we had gotten. So I had written these out, and Brenda, who is the conflict-free case management expert, can answer these questions. So if someone asks, if you have a question such as, who will be my new social caseworker? How would you answer that, Brenda?
So I would say, so I just wanted to start before I go into the questions, just a couple of additional updates for you, and then I can help you with the questions. So I
Okay.
did want just to let folks know that we did have back in May, 2 different stakeholder meetings on May 11th and on May 30th. So we have been working to answer all of those individual questions that we received, and they should be posted to the website by the end of the day tomorrow. I would encourage everyone to go to that website. It's where all the latest and greatest information is about case management. If you type into your browser, EOHHS with a space and then CFCM, it will take you to the exact page that has all that information.
To learn more about Rhode Island's plan for conflict-free case management, search for EOHHS and CFCM in your web browser and click on the first result, Conflict-Free Case Management at RI.gov. You can also visit Rhode Island's Executive Office of Health and Human Services website directly at www.eohhs.ri.gov/conflict-free-case-management.
We are also planning stakeholder engagement meetings and topic areas. So over the next 6 months, we will be, first we'll put out a plan as to what the topics will be and when we will be meeting. And we will be getting together with the variety of stakeholders that we have to talk about different areas, help folks understand what sort of our thinking is and get feedback from the stakeholders to refine and edit some of the ways in which we plan to do the work sort of moving forward. So that will happen sort of between July and December, and we're hoping to have the stakeholder engagement plan ready for you to look at by the beginning of July. So you can see what topics we'll discuss and how you can get more involved. Okay, so now we can go back to that list of questions. All right, so who will be my new social worker? Well, things will be a little bit different in the future. So we will always have state social caseworkers, and they will continue to do all the things that Kelly talked about on the previous slide. They'll do eligibility, they'll help with transition, they'll continue to do the SIS. So they'll be doing they'll still be authorizing your services, looking at your plans. But when you are seeking a change in your services or want to make a change to your plan, or something is going on in your life that you need some support for, it'll be your case manager that will be that person that you go to. But between now and December, you keep doing what you're doing, and you can contact your social caseworker. Who will write my plan? So in January, it'll start to be your case manager. That's who will write your new plans. And you will be able to, we're hoping that we have several agencies that you can choose from, and you will be able to choose, which case management organization you choose to work with. If you don't know, or it doesn't matter to you, we can help you to decide that. Can you still call BHDDH? Of course, you can always call BHDDH. We will provide customer service. We will help you to direct you to where is the best place to answer your questions or to meet your needs, but we will always provide a level of customer service and be here to help you. Do my services change with conflict-free case management? Only if you want them to. So this really doesn't change your services. If you are happy and comfortable with the services you're receiving, you can keep those. If there's a change you'd like to make, then you would talk to your case manager about that, and they would help to arrange for that change. Will I have the same agency for services? So it's the same answer. If you are happy with the agency that's providing your services and you don't want there to be any change, then there doesn't need to be. If you are not pleased with your agency or you're not getting what you wanted, you can talk to your case manager about that and they can help make those new connections for you. How are we doing so far? All right. We got 3 more questions. If an individual does not have family and is not able to present his wants or needs, can agency staff be involved with that? Yes. In fact, we would encourage that, but it's up to you. We want there to be sort of what we call continuity of care. So we want things to, if they know you well and you have a good relationship with them and they can help you, we want them to be a part of those conversations. What happens if I don't like the plan the new person writes? Well, then I would say they did not do it correctly because it's your plan. You drive the plan. They're just there to type it up for you and help write it down and make it formal, but it's your plan. You decide what goes in it. And if you don't like it, then you tell the case manager and they fix it. And if they don't listen to you, then you call BHDDH and we will address it. How will I get my plan writer? Will they be assigned? And if I self-direct, will I still be able to pick who I want? So in the future, there will be certain qualifications that case managers need to meet. They need to be trained to do person-centered planning and to write these plans for you. So you certainly, if that person that you're working with now meets those qualifications, and the case management organization hires them, then absolutely, that makes a ton of sense. But the change is that there will be some qualifications that we ask those case managers to have because they are no longer plan writers only. In January, we will shift from plan writers to case managers. Case managers do more than just plan writing. They get to know you and they help you develop your plan, but then they also help connect you to those services and supports that you're looking for to help you with that plan. And then they're going to connect with you regularly and make sure that you're getting those services you wanted and that they're meeting your needs. And if there are changes, that they will help you make those changes.
Thank you, Brenda.
Thanks, Kelly.
Did anyone have any questions before we move on?
It's Deanne. Hi.
Hi,
I
Deanne.
actually do have a question. So, I was part of this as well. So, I'm just looking for a clarification though. So let's say I already have a plan writer who knows me very well, and I still want to stick with that person. So how would they go about being trained and, by that agency or whatever?
So we are in the very beginning process of creating a sort of a core curriculum for training the new case managers. And we will have some stakeholder engagement meetings to share, what we're thinking and get some feedback and do that collaboratively with you. But we're not quite there yet. We're getting close. So that's the training that we would want all of the new case managers to go through in the future, so that they are highly qualified to do very person-centered planning with you. If you have a person who knows you well and really can support you in talking about your needs and strengths and wants and interests, you are able to choose whomever you want to accompany you to those meetings with your case manager.
And that, you just answered my question, because that's the question I've been getting for people who self-direct as well as other people that I work with. So thank you.
If people have more questions, please put them in the Q&A so we can pick up the questions first instead of the chat.
If you're a participant, that's the problem with the panelists. You might have to put it in the chat because the way that Zoom is set up.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's what we found out last time too. So put them one place or the other and we'll find them. Andrew Whalen, can you help us watch the chat to see if there's any questions, just because he's detailed like that? Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I will check. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, so we're going to talk a bit about some of the changes coming up in the SIS and due to the rate review. This really shouldn't just say the SIS because it's not all about the SIS. It's actually about how we are going to be, we meaning the Division of Developmental Disabilities, will be looking at what people need. So right now we have the SIS, which gives us a tier, and we use that, and living arrangement goes through a formula that we use to determine the what we call now the tier package. Going forward, there's a new SIS-A coming out. So it's going to take a few months for us to finish testing it to figure out what the impact of the changes are. So we're going to have the new SIS. We have what right now we're just calling the additional questionnaire, which if anyone's gone through a SIS in the past month or so, we've started using to try to get at some of the additional needs that the SIS doesn't get. Eventually, within the next year, we'll actually have a validated tool. So we'll have another way of getting at it. So if you think of the SIS as kind of the functional assessment of what do people need, what kind of supports do people need in order to be successful, this additional questionnaire is trying to get at what are the other circumstances. So it's less about the person and more about circumstances and things going on in someone's life that could affect what they need. So think of it as a long word, but situational assessment. So we're going to have these two things to go together to try to get at everything that we can. And then we're going to have a meeting to talk about, did we actually get at everything? So we'll be developing a new formula, it's called an algorithm, that will take all of these things into account to come up with a funding level for each individual. So by next year, we'll have, we won't have these packages anymore where you fit into one of these 20 boxes. We're going to have funding levels that really try to get at what each person needs. So right now, if we have two people and they're both come out as a tier B and they both live independently, they would get the exact same funding. Next year, when we're getting at more things that are going on in people's lives and what they need, they might have different funding because the funding will be driven by a different algorithm that will take more into account. So that's going to be a big change next year. But we're trying to get at some of that right now through this additional questionnaire. And it pretty much serves the same purpose that the S109 process does now, but we're doing it up front instead of waiting for it to be an appeal or after the fact. We're trying to get at this information sooner to make it better for everybody. And every year we'll be doing an ongoing review to make sure that the funding is appropriate for each individual, that everyone's getting what they need. So we will be doing a lot of information, this new communications team I have. This is something that is going to be a big change for the system, and we want to make sure everyone understands it. So again, look for more information. I'm giving you a very broad picture right now because we don't have all the details worked out, but we will be coming out with more detailed information on what all of this looks like and how it will work.
All right, Anne, I need to stop you for just a second. Kelly Donovan had a question. She's asked, I did my SIS August 2016. This new SIS, will I have to redo it in its new format? Or only doing a SIS again for when I have life-changing events?
The SIS should be redone every 5 years. That's the schedule we're on right now, unless there's a major life event that it can be done sooner. So if yours hasn't been done since 2016, we're actually late. But COVID did slow things down because we couldn't meet in person, and it took quite a while for AAIDD, the American Association. I'm sorry, I'm getting it wrong. What's it called? This is why we use the acronyms, because the names are very long.
American Association for Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities.
Thank you, Deb. They put out the SIS. It's their product. It took them time to catch up to the requirements under COVID, to train the interviewers on how to do virtual interviews. So we are still a little behind. So if people haven't requested a SIS, you might be going a little longer than the 5 years. So bear with us. If you feel you need one, you can request one sooner if you are late, but we're catching up. So no, we're not going to resist everybody right away because of the new SIS. People will stay on their 5-year schedule unless they have a life event that they're requesting one sooner.
And
yes,
can you explain the last bullet there, the ongoing review of funding level at annual meeting? What does that look like?
That's going to be a conversation, or we might look at the new validated tool. We want to make sure those circumstances that I talked about that are in that second tool to supplement the SIS, that they haven't changed even more. So we want to make sure people don't necessarily change that much year to year. Some do, and they can request more, but circumstances can change a lot faster than we change. So we want to make sure every year we have that conversation of how are things going? Are we getting at everything? And is the funding still the correct funding? Is the level, well, first it's the level of need. So is the need still there to make sure the funding is there for it? That makes sense?
It does. Would they need to have to do an S109 or something then, or you don't know yet?
No, it won't be an S109. So if the additional questionnaire comes out and we have additional funding, we're just going to want to review that questionnaire and those questions to say, are these circumstances still going on? Has something new come up? So it's not an S109. It's just part of it'll become part of the planning process and be a conversation or a review of the findings, or we haven't worked out those details yet on how that will be delivered. But we do want to make sure we check in every year to make sure the level of need hasn't changed and that the funding is still what it needs to be. So no, it's not going to be the S109s. We're expecting the S109s to go down, that we won't need as many because we'll be getting at a lot of the things that lead to S109s up front. And we've been told that the SIS doesn't get at everything. That's why we have the S109s. That's why we're looking at adding an additional questionnaire or tool that will help us get at those additional things. But some of those additional things are much more variable. So we need to check in every year to make sure we're still meeting the need. The S109 process isn't going away completely because we do think there will be times where people do need to put in a request for one reason or another. So there'll still be the opportunity to request additional funding if the funding levels just don't get at what is needed. So that it'll still be there. We just want to use it less. We want it to be an exceptions process and not, the S109 isn't part of the ongoing everyday process.
Claire Rosenbaum just asked, if the last SIS was longer than 5 years ago, will BHDDH wait for this new process to redo it?
Well, we're using the new SIS right now and testing it before we can roll out a new funding formula. We need 500 of the new ones before we can have enough data for it to inform the new formulas. So yes, the next SIS will be the new one. So whoever is having a SIS coming up, they'll be using the new one.
I'm sorry, this is Tracy Levesque.
Sorry, Tracy, correct me if I...
Yeah, I just want to step in for one moment. The new SIS, the team has been trained, but we have not rolled it out yet.
Oh,
so if
I'm
you are
sorry.
scheduled, that's okay. I just want clarity for the folks. If you are scheduled for a SIS at this point through the month of July, you will be receiving the existing SIS. The hope is that we can roll out the new version by the end of July.
And we'll let everyone know, we'll put the message out in the newsletter and through other mechanisms to let people know when that happens. I'm sorry, Tracy, I heard everyone was trained, so I made a conclusion I shouldn't have.
That's all right. There's still a couple of technical components that need to occur prior to rolling it out.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And there's also a question from Mary Beth Kernoyer. She said, who will be creating the purchase orders under the new change?
Under the conflict-free case management change?
Yeah, I think that's what she meant.
Mary Beth, is that what you meant?
Well, with all of the change, you're talking about changing funding levels and so forth. So would that happen at the level of within conflict-free case management? Would that be the fiscal intermediary? Because there would be a different review of that as well. So I just wondered where that's going to be parked.
The SIS and the additional questionnaire will remain with the division.
Right.
So we'll still have the SIS unit. And those things are what feed into the formula that leads to the funding level. So the level of funding will stay with the state. The state will continue to determine that. When you get down to doing the plan, and we have more information about that coming, right now, the plan development and the purchase order development will continue the way they have been.
Okay.
As people move into conflict-free, the people who move over in January will be the people who have plans probably in February, March, and then it will take about a year to move everybody over because people will move over as their plans come due.
So once they move over,
then conflict-free will be developing the plan and the purchase order.
And the purchase order. Okay, thank you.
Stay tuned because there's more to say about that, about how those budgets are going to happen. So some other service changes, there's changes to definitions. So right now, when we talk about day, it could be day at a center-based program, it could be day in the community. Going forward, we will have a center-based day program, and that's what day will refer to, is the center-based program. Community-based day has been rolled into community-based supports. In looking at all of our definitions and services, there were a number that the only difference was really the time of day. So we had community-based day, then we had community-based supports for nights and weekends. All of that's rolled into the same definition now, so people don't have to distinguish. So we just have community-based supports as opposed to center-based day. The community-based supports could be any time of day, any day of week. Removed the pre-vocational definition because it wasn't clear. It could do some different things, but someone could be volunteering, for example. One person could volunteer for fun, one person could volunteer because they want to try out a certain type of work. So it wasn't always clear what things were for. So part of the community-based supports is to help people develop skills. So we are no longer separating pre-vocational skills from every other skill because they go hand in hand. So the pre-vocational services still exist. It would just be called, it will happen under community-based supports. And overnight supports, if someone is on call and is called up at 2 a.m., they'll also bill community-based supports. So staffing ratios are also going away. If any of you have had to deal with billing, that was made things difficult, having to look at the ratios all the time. There are rates will either be based solely on tier for service, or we have some services that have a one-to-one rate and a group rate. So community-based supports is one of them, for example. So community-based supports, if the service is provided one-to-one, it's the same rate for all tiers, and people would bill the one-to-one. If there's 2 or more people getting supports together, they will bill their tier. Doesn't matter how many people are with them, they'll bill the tier. So it's a one-to-one rate or your tier rate, and that's it. We are adding some new services. Not all of them will roll out on January 1st because we have to work with providers on how they roll out and also what the details are for people who self-direct. So whole life SLA is SLA plus having the SLA provider also provide day and employment supports. Whole life SLA exists now as enhanced SLA. It will continue as enhanced SLA for a while until more details are worked out to make it the permanent one. Enhanced SLA happened under COVID. Supportive living is a model of residential supports that's kind of in between living independently and living in a group home. We need to work with providers on how that will work. So look for more information on that and on companion room and board as we move forward. We don't have the details yet. Peer support and family to family support are also new services. Those may roll out a little bit faster because we have some agencies who might be ready to go with those by September, I would think. Remote supports is using technology to in place of staff often. So if someone right now has a staff person with them overnight, they might be able to do a technology support where someone is at the other end of a video screen or knows when the front door opens. There's alarms. If the stove is left on, it can have automatic shutoffs. There are companies that do this, so you can rely on some technology support instead of people. We'll be getting more details on that and bringing in, we'll be looking for vendors and bringing in more information. Discovery is the first step in customized employment. So it's an intensive service to get to know an individual, their strengths, what they like, what they don't like, and develop. The end result is to develop an employment plan to approach potential employers with kind of a pitch for how the individual can customize a job with that employer. It is meant to be an intensive service, so it is time limited. It's 120 hours over no more than 6 months. Personal assistance in the workplace is basically community-based supports, but at work. We added this one in because there was some confusion over what to bill when people were at work. Some people thought they had to bill job coaching, even if they weren't doing job coaching. So if someone needs personal assistance, no matter what setting they're in, they would use this new service. And vehicle modifications, similar to home modifications, it will be on a non-request service with a budget and a certain cap to it. Only for the vehicle modifications, not for the purchase of a vehicle. So again, we'll be coming out with a lot more information on how all of this will work. But so individual budgets, this is a brand new term, brand new concept, and a big change. Right now, within your tier package, you know, those boxes we talked about, you have your tier and your living arrangement and you fit into that box. We tell you how much you can spend on each thing. That's the starting point. We give you the units, the line items, and it's a very, we tell you what to do. So we're going to stop doing that. We're going to give you the funding and part of the budget. So you'll have an overall funding level instead of a tier package. That funding level is going to be divided into two parts. A flexible individual budget, which is we'll give you the dollar amount, you decide how you want to spend it. So transportation is one that often comes up, the 512 units. Instead of telling you you have 512 units, we're going to ask you how much transportation do you need. So as you're developing your plan, it'll be something to consider. And you can decide, you know, I don't need transportation. Maybe I have a driver's license, so I don't need to pay anybody. Or I get rides everywhere. I don't need to worry about it. So I don't need any funding for transportation. Someone else may say, I go everywhere a lot. So I want to take 10 trips a day. If that's how you want to spend your funding, it's in support of something in your plan and you have the funding for it, you can put that in. So it'll be up to you how you spend your money on each of the services you decide you need. There is one exception. We will have one line item that's non-negotiable. That's for people who self-direct. There will be a line item for support brokerage. That's a minimal amount that can't be moved out for anything else. You can't shift that funding. You can add more funding in if you want to spend more on support brokerage, but that minimum level is going to be required for everyone to have access to support brokerage.
Can you explain support brokerage quick, like a little bullet thing for the video, please?
Support brokerage is services in support of self-directing your own services. So it could be someone who helps you find staff, manage your staff, find resources. We have several support brokers that I'm seeing on the screen right now. If anyone wants to chime in. No one wants to chime in. Did I say everything okay?
Yeah, so it's just services to help you do stuff, to figure out how to do it. Yes. I think Andrew's trying to bump in. He's trying to be polite, but there's a couple of questions in the chat to catch up.
I can chime in.
Okay, Rita.
I just want to add to Ann's comment. Yes, it's that. It's also, we believe in meeting people where they're at. Apart from finding staff for them, supporting that staff, how we summarize it easily for some parents, we're the person in between the fiscal intermediary and their state social worker. So we're that person in between, and we help also with hiring, training the staff, payroll, immigration issue, housing issues, SNAP issues, accessibility to different things. Like you mentioned something about car modifications, stuff like that, finding resources for stuff that difficult, because that is a very difficult task for a lot of families to access modifications for their vehicles and or other things. So that's, to summarize it, we're the person between the state social worker, the fiscal intermediary, and everybody in between.
Okay, thank you. So before I take the questions, I just want to touch on the other part of the budget, which is what we're calling the fixed items. So the flexible items are the things you as the person getting services control. You can decide how much you want to spend and what you want to spend it on. The fixed items are payments directly to providers. So the things you can't shift money away from and that you can't control the rates. So things like if you live in a group home or you live in shared living or the FI fees if you self-direct. Those are set amounts that have to be paid. The state will just pay those. So you won't have to worry about those things. There is an additional part over and above flexible and fixed budgets, which are called add-on budgets. So the add-on budgets include things like the vehicle modifications, home modifications, peer supports, family supports, and the most important one, it includes employment. So right now, within the tier package, If you want employment, you have to give up some other service to get it. And if you're giving up day, employment costs a lot more, so your money doesn't go as far, you don't get as many hours. Going forward, if you need employment, we're going to fund it separately from your overall budget for fixed and flexible items. So Andrew said there are a bunch of questions, so I'm going to stop there for now and take some of those questions.
All right. First question asks, will all legal guardians be able to stay employed as DSPs at their agency to care for their family member?
Yes. So I'm going to keep it short and sweet. The answer to that is yes.
I'm just going to add a caveat that as we come out with guidance documents and standards, they have to continue to meet the ability to provide the appropriate level of supports for their family member or the person from their guardian to access community and employment going forward. That's all.
All right. Next question. Who will be responsible to create self-directed purchase orders with conflict-free case management?
The conflict-free case manager. They will do the plan and the purchase order. The purchase order always follows the plan. So whoever's doing the plan should be helping with the purchase order. And that
Next
purchase
one.
order will include these individual budgets where the purchase order will be what you've decided to spend money on, how much, and there'll be a separate part of the purchase order for employment or the other add-on services detailing what you need there.
All right. Next question from Claire Rosenbaum. How will all people who use self-directed services find a support broker?
It doesn't have to be an agency. You know, people even now have hired individuals who act as their support broker. So we're not changing that.
Finding a support broker. And so maybe in terms of conflict-free case management, is there assistance with that through conflict-free case management, Brenda?
Yeah, so I would say right now, if you're looking for a support broker, you can certainly contact your social caseworker and they should be able to assist you in getting connected to a support broker. When we have conflict-free case management, then your case manager can help you to connect to a support broker.
And I'm going to add in one there myself that says, well, everyone who self-directs need to use a support broker.
That question that Andrew just had, is that like a use it or lose it? Like you have that money
Yeah,
there?
so I think what Andrew's getting at, do you have to use the support
Yeah.
broker? You have the right to not use a support
Okay.
broker. The money can't be transferred somewhere else if you choose not to. That's
That's
the
a
answer
good-
to that.
yeah.
So the reason for that is the money is put in as an incentive for people to use support brokers. If you choose not to, that's a right of a person, an individual, to make choices on their behalf that you don't have to. But the money can't be transferred to another service, that baseline money. Does that answer your question, Andrew?
Yeah, I think for the most part it does.
Okay.
I also wanted to share that we are in the middle of creating a document that I think will be very helpful that lays out the different roles and responsibilities of all the different people and individuals that we're talking about. The difference between what a case manager would help you with, what a support broker would help you with, what a caseworker at the state might help you with, you know, what the provider helps you with. So we're working on a document to sort of lay that out and show everybody all of the differences in each of those roles. So that'll go up on that UHHS website that I talked about. And we will get that into the newsletter as soon as it's done. It's in the process still.
Yeah, will families and people with disabilities be able to see the SIS questions before their individual meeting? I think that's from Claudia Lowe.
So let me just take that. There's been some controversy on that. The short answer is we want people to be prepared for their SIS meeting so that they can answer questions accurately. AAIDD has on their website that you should ask few questions. Then they said they're going to take that down. It hasn't been taken down to my knowledge. We want further clarification because I think it's in everyone's best interest to be as prepared as possible to be able to answer questions as accurately as possible. So we're going to work with AAIDD on what the actual standards are. I'm not so much interested in individual people's opinions, but what we would really like is for people, first of all, to remain within the requirements that our contract with AAIDD holds us to. But we really want people to be prepared going into their SIS meetings, to be able to be comfortable, feel confident that they know what they're going to be sort of facing going into the meeting, that they're prepared for it, and that it's, the purpose of the meeting isn't to trick people, it's to help the individual answer questions accurately and for the interviewer to be able to assess accurately what the needs of the individual are. And then that will lead ultimately to putting together the correct funding package and support package, because those are two different things for people, but both those things to meet the needs of the individual with disabilities. And that's really the goal. So I want to get to the bottom of what the issue is with releasing or not releasing the questions. I don't want to violate an agreement that we have with AAIDD and just arbitrarily release them, and then we're in some kind of violation, and that creates a problem. But our goal is to just make sure people have the information. So if that comes through releasing the questions or a combination of releasing them and having trainings, or if we can't release them, providing enough training support through maybe examples of older questions or whatever, so that people really are prepared for the assessment day, the question day, so that it's not, or it minimizes stress. I'm never going to say that testing or assessments aren't stressful, but that we can prepare people enough so, and their support people, so people don't go alone. They often bring people with them, that they're as prepared as possible to answer questions as accurately as possible in order for their service needs to be met.
Even if we can't share the questions, we will be developing something, giving more information about what to expect from the SIS so that people are more comfortable walking into it. But
Yep.
and I'm
That's it.
sorry, I don't want to shut down the conversation.
Before you shut it down, on the AIDD website, since we had this conversation last time, they actually have some better resources there. And I'm just saying it now so that we will put the link in the recording when you watch it, so you can go there. and
That's
find
great.
it.
Thank you,
Great,
Deb.
thanks, Deb.
Visit the AIDD website for more information about the support intensity scale at www.aaidd.org/sis/sis-a-resources. This site contains materials for respondents that include videos about the SIS-A and a handbook that you can download in PDF format.
We just have a couple more things to get through. So can we hold the rest of the questions till we get through the rest of the information? The slide that's up now has individual budgets include most services in the middle, employment as a separate add-on. There's other services in there too, and residential and other fixed costs are outside the individual budget. So again, we'll be putting out more information about all of this. And so the individual budgets, you'll see this soon be put out, but some of the services that are under the individual flexible budget, under add-on and under fixed costs. So things like group home, shared living, the FI costs, supportive living, and companion room and board, the new services are fixed costs. The add-on services are employment, peer-to-peer, family-to-family, vehicle modifications, and home modifications. And all other services fall under the flexible budget, where you decide how much of each that you want. So look for information sessions and more information this summer. So then we have a little bit on employment and the tech fund. So I'm going to turn it over to Jay.
All right, and you want to put up my slide? Oh, thank you. All right, I'll be real quick, because I know you guys want to get to your questions. Just a quick update. We did launch the Target Employment Fund last month. This is money that's available through allocated funds through the consent decree to improve employment outcomes. So for those individuals that need additional supports in attaining their employment goals, they can put in for this fund. The application is online. There's a link for questions. If you do have questions, you need help or assistance on filling out these forms, please contact me. I'll put my contact information in the chat as well. But this is for discovery, job coaching, job development, any employment services that you may need some extra funding for in order to be successful. So please utilize it. It's a great way to get some extra funds to be able to be successful.
Here's how to find and complete the Targeted Employment Fund form. Step 1. Visit the Rhode Island Division of Developmental Disabilities website at www.bhddh.ri.gov/developmental-disabilities. Step 2. Scroll down the page and click on the plus sign next to Services for Adults. This will open a menu below it. Step 3. Click on the word Employment to open the division's employment page. Step 4. Scroll down the page to find Targeted Employment Funds. Then click on the third paragraph where it says, "Click this link for online completion of the Targeted Employment Funding Request Form, https://forms.office.com/g/Q3 small g small e small h small f capital U capital F capital R capital Q." This will open the form in a new tab in your web browser. Step 5. Answer the questions on the form. Email the division's supported employment team at the following address if you need some help completing the form: bhddh.dd-supportedemployment@bhddh.ri.gov. Tip: questions with a red asterisk are required. That means you need to answer them, or you won't be able to submit the form. Step 6. Before you submit any forms, it's a good idea to keep a copy for yourself. The easiest way to do this from a web page is to press the Control key and the letter P at the same time to open the print dialog box. Depending on the type of printers you have installed, you can either choose to print a digital PDF copy or a paper copy. This copy is for your records, so print the form in a way that works for you and remember to keep it in a safe place in case you need it later. Step 7. Once you've completed the form and saved a copy, scroll down to the bottom of the last page and check the circle in front of the sentence, "Employment plan has been emailed." This refers to your career development plan, which is different than the form you're filling out. You need to have an employment plan before you can apply for the Targeted Employment Fund. Step 8. Click on the green Submit button at the bottom of the form and you're done. Remember, you can always email the division's supported employment team or talk to your DD social caseworker if you have any questions or need more information.
Next thing, if you want to bring up the next slide, Ann, is an update on the technology fund. Round 5, we received 255 requests, which we're going through right now. We'll get through them as quick as we possibly can. Round 6, there is a round 6. It is open right now. So for those individuals who have not requested technology yet, please do so. The deadline is August 31st. And then we will be continuing the technology fund through the next fiscal year, so each quarter. But that is for individuals who have not already received technology. So it's not a new fund for the next year to apply for a second piece of technology. This is to be able to make sure that everybody is getting a chance to get the technology that they need. Once again, if you have questions on that, there is a link to be able to go on to the form, and you can also find frequently asked questions on the website for that as well. Or you're welcome to contact me personally if you have questions that need to be answered or you need assistance on filling out a form.
Hey, can you just clarify the timeline? Because we've heard from several people that when they submit the form, should they receive something saying, "Hey, we got your form," within a month? That's what I thought I read originally, and we've heard from people that say they still haven't heard anything.
I don't believe they receive anything right away. We wait for all the forms to come in. We review them. We reach out to those that we need to get more information from. And then those who are approved, we contact as soon as possible, but it's more towards the end of the deadline to be able to get all those applications in. If you do have questions on it, you can reach out to your social caseworker to find out, which some people have been doing, or once again, that they're welcome to reach out to me and I can look that up for them.
So is it more like it's 30 days after the deadline closes? Would that be better just than saying within 30 daas when you submit it?
That would be more realistic.
all right,
Yeah.
okay.
We get, like I said, we got 255 this last round, 5. There's 3 of us on the committee right now reviewing them. So we appreciate everyone's patience. Once again, we're getting through them as quick as we can. And that's it for me. So do you want to go back to your questions, or there's some the questions for me on employment or for the technology request fund?
There was a comment from a Dory Carter that says, we think a return email that their request was received is important for individuals.
Yeah, we were saying, just because it's difficult to know if you, did it go somewhere? Is it in the abyss, for the tech fund? Do you want me to go backwards up, Andrew, or do you want to go back through the chat to the other questions that are in there?
I had another question from Gregory Titus. It says, we currently are due to have a renewed plan written for our autistic adult daughter in October of this year that would start January 1st, 2024. Well, our plan writer we currently have changed to a case manager after January 1st.
Yeah, I did respond in the chat, but the answer would be that you would continue to do what you're currently doing. So if your plan is due in October, then you should continue to meet with your current plan writer.
So Gregory, your daughter will then be one of the last ones probably to move over because of the January 1st start date. So she'll have a plan going in before conflict-free, just before conflict-free starts.
So folks will be communicated with in advance of your need to go to a case management organization. So when we have case management and it's ready to go and it's your time to start to work on your plan development, you will receive a letter that lets you know that it's time to begin to work with a case management agency, and you can choose which one you want, and then that connection will happen that way. So it won't be up to you to just know when you need to do that. You will get a letter that will tell you. And until then, you just keep doing what you're doing.
Next one is a comment, I think. It says the FI completes the purchase order now, not the plan writer for self-directed services.
Yes, and service providers do as well. Right now they are responsible for developing their own POs because they're the ones who are developing the plan. So when we have conflict-free case management, they will prepare that plan for you and prepare the purchase order to submit to the state for approval. And then providers will do their own billing.
Next is from Joanne Melise. It says, please confirm respite is an add-on.
Respite is part of the flexible individual budget, not the add-on services.
And then we have one from Mary Beth Kernoyer. Which role completes community mapping?
Community mapping is a service, so it will continue to be done by providers or by self-directed staff.
So can you explain that a little bit? Can you elaborate? Because for people who self-direct, when it gets to making connections, who are you connecting them to? Yeah, what are you going to monitor if you're not connecting anybody? I mean, throughout it was community mapping would be done as part of conflict-free case management, the case manager, and it says it in the strategic plan, you're connecting people to services, supports, and resources, formal and informal. Now you're saying community mapping is a separate paid entity. What are you connecting people who self-direct to?
Community mapping isn't, there's a different definition of community mapping, I think, that we're using. The conflict-free will connect, and I'll let Brenda chime in, people to resources, but community mapping is a service to look at what is available in someone's community. So it could be part of community-based supports of what is someone interested in, what's available in their community, what might they want to try out? Are they learning transportation? Where are the bus stops? So community mapping is about really getting to know the individual's community and what they want to do in it, as opposed to connecting someone with services somewhere.
But people who self-direct don't connect to services. They connect. This was about connecting people to lives, not schedules. That was the whole premise of building, conflict-free case management. So I'm going to pose the question, what are you connecting? You've got 25% of the people utilizing self-direction. What are you connecting them to then? And what are you going to monitor if you're not connecting them to services, supports, and resources? Then how do you go back and monitor to make sure the connections were actually happened, that they were good connections for people, that there weren't some barriers to those connections?
So I think it's a major role for support brokers in the self-direct work, that they're much more feet on the ground, sort of one-on-one working with you in your neighborhood, in your community. I think it would happen at a different level in case management, where they are. I don't want people to think that case management is you sit down one afternoon, you write your plan, you're done, you're good, you go. It may take longer than that. You may not know exactly what you're looking for yet, and it may take a few visits to learn more about you and what you're interested in and get you connected to those, refer you to the right sort of services and supports that make sense for you. If what you're looking for is more in-depth kind of community mapping around particular areas of interest, then that would be done by a support broker or a service provider.
So would there be a training for support brokers? Because how are they supposed to know that that's an expanded role for them? I mean, you're saying on one hand, connecting to services is service planning, but then you're also saying it's service provision. I don't understand how you can take but you know what, we can have this conversation later. There's a lot of people with really important questions, so maybe we could have a follow-up conversation later. Thanks, Brenda.
Yeah,
So,
just once that conversation happens, I would very much like to be a part of that. So make sure that there's the right group that gets included. But next.
And then we
question,
could add that information somewhere too, because I mean,
Yeah.
people that are here would want to know the answer to just.
Yeah.
My
Yeah, but I
question
think
historically has always been, we've discussed conflict-free case management. I've reviewed the strategic plan. Time and time again, we talked about community mapping.
but I do think we agreed to go to the next question, but.
Oh,
because that
okay,
needs
great.
attention
Yeah,
of the
thanks,
team.
Kevin.
How will support brokerage differ from conflict-free case management in terms of accessing supports?
So we've had support brokerage, for several years, as long as I've been around. And so support brokers really assist people with self-directing their services, how to hire staff, how to train their staff, how to use those self-directed supports. And it may include how to connect to resources in their community and find connections, interests, et cetera, within their community. Case management, they sit with you to create your person-centered plan. They get to know you, they get to learn about what you need and what you want and create a sort of a whole life plan. If part of that plan is that you want to develop some interest and learn more about, what you can do in your community or related to a particular interest, then that's like a deeper, sort of more one-on-one kind of a service. So that's why that would happen as a service provision. That's why the support broker can get out into the world and do that with you. So that's sort of the differences. And as I said a little earlier, one of the things we're working on to be clearer about this, because I hear that it's still pretty fuzzy, is we're creating a document that will help to differentiate between all of those different roles and what their responsibilities will be in the future. I think that will be a helpful document.
All right, next thing was a comment, and it was by Susan Raposo, who said that it can be done by the support broker as well.
I was referring to community mapping.
And here's a question by Claire Rosenbaum here. Will there be a concerted effort to develop more capacity in support brokers? Currently, there is only limited resources in this world.
I think we do need to make an effort to expand capacity for a lot of the services in our system, including support brokerage. So yes, we will be working on that.
It was one above with the conflict-free case management. Will the social worker and agencies still be part of the ISP meeting, or will the plan just be written by the case manager? And there was an answer in there somewhere too, but just for the sake of the recording.
So you are able to invite whomever you'd like to your planning meetings, whoever is best to help support you. It may make sense, certainly for the first time you work with a case manager, to invite your previous social caseworker, but you don't have to. The reason that caseworkers had been involved in planning is to do our best to try to make sure that it was as conflict-free as possible. In this new arrangement in January, when we have case managers who are already free of conflict, it won't be as necessary for our social caseworkers to be a part of it. But they will be reviewing at the end to make sure that those plans truly are person-centered and that they reflect person-centeredness and that they are high quality. And so we will certainly be overseeing the case management agency to make sure they're doing things the way that we all expect them to.
So will the conflict-free case management organizations, will they be the ones who also format the plans and stuff to make sure that somebody gets it in the individualized language? And
yes.
Okay. And then before we leave, there was a question in the Q&A that Kevin said he wanted to answer live. So we just want to make sure we get that in. Kevin, the question was, will there be a new extension list published for all the new positions filled?
Yeah, so the extension list gets published in the newsletter every month. So they were included in this one. Yep, so they're already out. And I anticipate a couple of new people in the next list. So we'll continue to update you every month on the current staff.
that should also be on our website. So we'll make sure the updated list is on our website.
Visit the division's website for the most recent list of DD staff at www.bhddh.ri.gov/developmental-disabilities/contact-us.
That's a lot of questions. Everybody's a little fried. Wait, there's another question there.
Said we are unable to get Susan Hayward's youth and transition updates. And then this is from Cindy Fusco. It says, if anyone has questions about youth and transition, she will provide updates at the next meeting. Or you may also wish to email her at susan.hayward@bhddh.ri.gov.
And we will give Sue as many pages as she likes in the next newsletter.
Not necessary. Fine, this is a great conversation. Glad to listen to it, but we're at our time, so no problem. I just had barely any updates. I'll just give them next time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. This was a great conversation. It was excellent to hear questions from the community. That's really why we're here. And so I hope we could answer them. And Mary Beth will get back to you on the community mapping and we'll develop that conversation. I know you and I have talked about it a lot. And I really think we need to clarify what it is and what it means to people with disabilities. So thank you, everybody, and we'll see you again next time.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Contact the Division of Developmental Disabilities. Phone 401-462-3421. Para dejar un mensaje en español, 401-462-3014. Email bhddh.askdd@bhddh.ri.gov. You can watch this recording again and find out more about the topics that were discussed at www.advocatesinaction.org/DD Community Forums. Produced by Advocates in Action Rhode Island for the Rhode Island Division of Developmental Disabilities, 2023. Remember, nothing about us without us.